Greetings, hello, Hare Krishna. My name is Jvalamukhi Dasi. I'm here with the J Files. This is number 43 in my series, My Hoo-Hoo and the Destiny of the Universe, the Golden Age, the Great Sinister Movement, and the Fire Walk of a Hare Krishna Kid. This is entry number 43, video number 43 in my series. I'm working on finishing my book soon, hopefully, and we'll get that out to you with Krishna's blessings very, very soon. All right, here we are. This is from 2012 in March. Okay, I had my first breath session last week. I had so much fear about doing it because so much emotion was coming up around the murder of my little friend. As an expert facilitator, the breathwork lady helped distill the intention of the session to, quote, I am deeply connected to Krishna's love. So just to give a little context, a friend of mine is an expert breath work facilitator, and I was going through a lot of heavy body recall, past trauma coming up for me. And if any of you have been in the healing process, you know how hard it is to walk around and exist like that. So you're always looking for ways to relieve the pent up past in productive ways instead of non-productive ways. So I had tried breath work, and I'm journaling here about that session. And I feel that that's important for people to know, because really the spiritual path of self-realization is ultimately healing our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We have an eternal relationship with Him. And there's a theme when we come to this material world, the temporary world, and all of the experiences that we have here are around that same central theme of why we are no longer in the spiritual world. So healing those beliefs and conversations around the situations that have occurred to us, or not occurred to us, we're not victims here, but that we've experienced, is synonymous with making spiritual advancement. You can't just be ritual about your spiritual life. You can't just be automatic without actually accessing those conversations and beliefs and attitudes in our hearts, because those attitudes are why we're here in the material world. And the different scenarios that we find ourselves in are bringing forward what has been, so that now we can make new choices. So before you can become Krishna conscious, you have to become conscious. First become conscious, then God conscious, or Krishna conscious. So that's what this process is. And again, sometimes I feel like I'm boring my audience with the endless regurgitation of past life trauma, but this is my journal, and it was my healing to see these words on paper so that I could come around right. So if they have any value for you, please take it in that way. But the purpose of all of this is to show the path of self-realization. A few days before the session, my body was gearing up to process, as it does, and I was saying the affirmation to myself. I release grief and fear to make way for joy. I want to live. The quote, I want to live part was really emotional for me to even think what to speak of, to say out loud. In the same way, the affirmation that Krishna loves me and I am deeply connected to that love made me feel sad, remorseful, but fully alive. So in that way, just the sentence, I want to live, was scary at first. My breath was backwards at first, abdomen going in on the exhale and out on the inhale. The facilitator said that meant I was pushing things away from me and not receiving good either. Boy, did that ring true. Scenes from that island life, as well as the one, so the island life is referring to the past life recall I had around being a shaman woman roughly 450-ish years ago in the Polynesian islands. So that recall was still present for me at that time. Scenes from that island life, as well as the one by the Dark Lake camp, came up. I saw my mother from my current life as my past life's daughter, and a friend in this life as my son, whom I had aborted last time around. I do not know if that abortion was voluntary or forced. I also saw the father of my child who left us, who were unwanted burdens, or at least that is how I felt. I just wanted to run and comfort my friend and tell him how much I wanted to be able to keep him, how much I loved him. I felt compassionate towards my parents this time around, thinking of all the wrongs I must have done to them so long ago in a different body, but how underlying all the story was the attachment and ultimately the love. Of course, I cannot confirm any of those relationships as actually having been that way, nor does it even really matter. But what does matter most are the feelings that are the same this time around, and the work that we have, that we can help each other to finish up in this lifetime. The most beautiful thing about it was that, as I lay there releasing the grief, ultimately, the grief that I had left Krishna, the spiritual world, and had gotten myself so entangled here in the material world, I perceived how the gorgeous face of Lord Shyamasundar was directly over mine, his curly black hair falling on either side of my head in his near embrace. He was the supreme attractive protector, source, comforting this tiny hurting part of himself, this tiny little spirit soul that is me. I marvel that someone as fallen as I have been graced with so many perceptions directly of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as he is, as a person, even though I have no taste for chanting. How kind he is, how kind he is. I stayed up late watching YouTube videos about the Illuminati. Interestingly, I was not triggered and do not even feel much fear of death. No fear of destruction, of anything anymore. I just want that my sons and loved ones know how to sincerely cry out the holy names as Krishna approaches us all as death, for it is sure. Kali Yuga is right on schedule. The thing I was left with was how important it is for me to let devotees know that the Illuminati agenda did not miss the organization we call ISKCON. The Illuminati agenda is the Great Sinister Movement that Srila Prabhupada referred to. It is alive and well and being built right in front of our noses. The one true religion, brouhaha, BS. With all of the other pressing things I have to do, I will dedicate myself to telling this long story as concisely as possible and focusing on the life-altering realizations that have been injected into my heart as I surrendered through my pain and my fear. Never mind so much the horror around the whole thing. There is enough of that everywhere anyway. Next entry, 4/26/12. I had a breathwork session with a breathwork facilitator on Tuesday again. My set intention for the session was, I am gentle with myself. I accept where I am. As she said this concisely for me to repeat, I felt like hitting her. So I knew that she was right on track. Wow. I want to live. Krishna loves me way too much. So it's like that. When you say a statement and there's a lot of resistance, that means there's a lot of information that your body and subconscious are storing, that resistance, and there's a story underneath it. So anytime you have resistance to a very benign statement like, I want to live, Krishna loves me, and then you feel like, then there's a reason that you feel that way, and you have to pay attention to it. So I've got a lot of ideas for t-shirt slogans for my healing journey, and one of them is relax into the terror or run into the resistance. And that's where you will find your gold. In other words, what you have to work on so that you can come round right. All right, where are we? To add to the 3+ years of itch and pain in my vagina, I also have been running a low-grade urinary infection the last few weeks. I wanted to release the stored emotion behind these. The result was not what I expected as usual. So I'm calling my book My Hoo-Hoo and the Destiny of the Universe, because really I was forced by my body that was manifesting all sorts of issues in the reproductive organs because of the massive amount of sexual abuse that I had repressed. So excuse me for being graphic here, but that's the title of the book for a reason. And unfortunately, in our Kali Yuga society, sexual abuse is rampant. I believe it's, I think 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 4 or 5 boys that is sexually abused before adulthood. And so many people are experiencing the ramifications of that. And it's imperative that we are able to come to our healing if we are to become healthy again, become proper mothers, fathers, husbands and wives. If we don't heal those wounds of sexual abuse, then we pass them forward, or we manifest some other kind of illness, either physically, psychically, emotionally. That's where a lot of the homosexuality push is there, because it's very hard to accept that you were sexually abused by someone dear and near to you, and it's a lot easier to react to it instead of pass through the ring of fire, feel your feelings, and honor the truth of what happened. So, as they say, evil is cheap and easy. Love and truth is expensive. Simple but expensive. I spent 1 hour breathing and heavily grieving for Matthew, the little 2-year-old black boy whom my relative murdered as part of the campfire orgy in the woods near the Detroit Temple. It is important for me to describe what I felt, because so often I come out of these sessions and go directly back into denial mode. That wasn't really real, was it? I'm making everything up. I'm crazy. Of course, to say this after this one, well, I'd have to be very, very determined to be in denial and to be blind. The body cannot lie. While trying to maintain deep belly breaths, I panted, I screamed, and I toned. Toned means like you make a noise, just a sound that is commensurate with the emotion that's coming up and out of you, and that helps release it from the tissues and from the subconscious. So I panted, screamed, and toned until my chest only gave out a small squeak. I filled up the bottom of the bucket with tears and bile from dry heaving, lots and lots of mucus, and my hot breaths. My body shook violently up in the chest area, and my heart hurt, and hurt. I saw more details. I re-experienced more. I don't even want to write it. The knot in my throat pushes out tears as I am writing this right now. Anyway, history is history. I am listening to the angelic voice of Bharahari Prabhu on the new CD that we recorded together. It helps me feel safe. I am safe in the sound vibration of the holy name and in devotee association. After the little boy Matthew was killed by my relative by a pipe to the head, he made me and the others hit his small lifeless body on the head again and again, saying, "See, you made us kill him. You killed him. You killed him, because you were going to tell." Grief, grief, pain, pain, tears, tears. Oh, my poor little one, you looked at us as we walked by and we greeted each other. You were so shy and curious then in the daylight, standing with your mama. Now you are standing next to me in your subtle body, now that your physical body is dead, offering me comfort as your angels wait to escort you on. Oh, my dear spirit soul, may you find peace. May you find peace. We are the ones left here. The breathwork facilitator directed me to sit up and lay back to integrate the session. The grief kept flowing, however. I spoke to her, describing the scene as it was in my heart's eyes. When I came to the point of why I was grieving so much, not so much for myself, but for the little boy and for my friends, then I was aware of my other friends, who I will not mention here by name, but they were also second generation children who I was in Gurukul with in Detroit. They were also at the campfire with all of those demons that night. Oh, Krishna, please protect and purify them. I spoke with my husband for an hour or so this evening. I am used to things ending in tragedy, and so subconsciously, more than half of the time, I do expect him to leave me. How hard it must be for him. I explained to him as best as I could. I had my mother take the children today. I did not get out of bed until 11 a.m. I did not get up to send them to school. This is the fourth day like that in a week and a half, and I'm okay with that. My heart felt like an anchor, and I was angry with my husband and the baby today, although I did not know the source of my anger. I took an extra long warm shower thinking what must lay behind all of the anger. I pushed my husband away just to see if he will come back and hold me. I realized more now than ever. I need to receive. I need unconditional love. Usually, I am overcompensating and powering through things. I explained to him that, in the same way, that he was unable to work for 2 weeks after his friend's death, so I am very low functioning right now. It is as if those hugely traumatic events that just took place, it is as if those hugely traumatic events of the past just took place yesterday. And here I am, supposed to get up and get my kids to school on time and be loving and balanced and ready to be romantic with the love of my life. Ha! The reality is, I am integrating. It takes immense amounts of energy. This is why most people don't opt for the healing path. It is hard. The pockets of poisonous emotions and correlating memories are pouring into my conscious awareness. I do feel more whole, though. I am asking myself, why did I want to go through all of this again? What is the benefit? I know the answer, though. I'm just sad. Just sad. I heard that Radhanath Swami may come for 2 days. Nandini says it must be because he wants to see me. I will go to pieces in his presence. I am a little afraid. This is what I was thinking in 2012, before I knew. 4:30:12. Yesterday morning, a long time ago, my mother told me that my grandmother Alice was in the process of passing away. I felt nothing initially, but as the day wore on, came more and more of the strong emotions that caused the feeling of great discomfort in the chest and stomach region, the nauseous feeling. Where to go? What to do to make it just go away? I parked the van in the shade in the front, and I tried to remember what to do the breathwork myself. Some emotions came up, but not fully. I sat to chant, and I prayed, and I got the answer to just let go of my attachment to feeling that way. I forced myself to jump when my middle son asked me to jump on the trampoline, and I connected with my voice, and it felt good, and I floated in the water of our very shallow pool. I've been really sad about my husband as of late, since I told him that I'm not really ready to be intimate right now and to be in integrity with where I am in my healing process. He is quite the silent ship in the night around here. I came inside from swimming after a long shower. The feeling was still there. Since I was in the house alone, I let the emotion come to the surface and found I began shrieking. The feeling to put my body in a hole in the ground and just cover myself with dirt all the way, and just to go to sleep and never wake up, kept repeating itself all day long. When I drove, the feeling was to steer the car into oncoming traffic. Knowing these messages to be typical suicide programming, I asked myself, why are these activated right now? I was really feeling that it would be extremely difficult in my present state to make it through the night, especially since I was in a cold war with my husband, the accomplished general of stonewalling. I really just needed a hug and some love, and that was not to be found. I called my teacher, Mahaprabhu, at about 8:30 p.m. to see if she could just settle things down for me energetically or give me some advice. I was feeling like I was coming apart. She had me try to breathe. I was doing okay until I felt I needed to throw up. And in walks my mother instead of my husband. I hung up the phone and ran out of the door for a session right then and there. Who could process with the two of them around? Baggage. I love you guys. Sorry. Life's complicated. I drove there praying for protection. I struggled to breathe normally as Kamra Prabhu hugged me. I was breathing the panicky breath. I asked her how did she get through all of this all on her own without any expert energy healer to help and having her own husband leave her. Whoa. So my teacher is, I don't even know how to describe her amazing qualities. She had also gone through satanic ritual abuse as a child in her family of origin and had recall of it much later in life. And she told me at one point that she sat for 6 months on the couch with her hand over the phone, literally a hole in the seat of her pants from sitting there waiting to call 911, not knowing if she would live or die. So she's told me many stories of that, of her own healing. And because she has passed through the darkest of evil and come out the other side by her own integrity and her relationship with her spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, she is qualified to help anyone else come out of that darkness. So I was asking her, how did you get through it? How did you make it? And she has many, many stories in the same way that I'm telling my story. Her stories would definitely rival mine. Interestingly, she told me she just hugged the picture of Lord Nrsingadev to her chest and sobbed. I was doing that earlier today myself. It turns out I was feeling so strongly because the main message was, come back to the group or die. You are the next in line. So these are the inner messages that would be programmed in during the torture and trauma scenes. Ironically, a relative is probably there with tulsi leaves and other paraphernalia as the dead bodies in the walls and under the floor churn in anticipation of revenge. So that's my sarcastic side coming out. Sorry about that. Notably, I saw my granddaddy dressed in some hairy black costume, chasing and scaring us when we were little kids. We were in the damn basement again. My relative was laughing to get his other relatives' approval. We were petrified. There was some kind of black, sinewy, it looked like a dead body in a rigid posture with arms and legs raised and bent, laying on its back. Super scary. Then someone in a costume that looked like the dead body, maybe it was my uncle, chased us around to scare us even further. Then I kept saying, oh, no, 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 mommy, mommy, no, mommy, no, no, no. We were so small. They had taken someone very dear to me into the basement, and a few men raped her in front of us. This was the indoctrination. You know, some things I can't even say on these videos are so bad, but this was the indoctrination of my, quote, dear relative, the one I love the most. I could not save her. I never could. It was set up that way. I feel very, very sad. I feel helpless. I feel powerless. Back in the present moment, my mother was worried that I had gone off so late in such a state, and she asked me, what is happening? We spoke earlier that day. She just wants to be able to remember the past, but I tell her, I pray that you never remember. And it doesn't work that way. I'm grateful that she's very supportive, though, even if there has been so much trauma in her own life. How complicated. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Nrsingadev, has a plan. May I come to it soon. My aunt and uncle on her side are visiting today. Lovely to see them. There's a page and a half left, so it's not enough for a whole nother video. So I will finish it, even though this is a bit long. May 17th, 2012. Noteworthy clearings and what was underneath. So there was some werewolf kind of energy, such a violent masculine energy. It took a while to unhook. I repeated over and over the name of Shri Radha. Oh gosh. Okay, you know what? I'm going to end the video here because I have to do some heavy editing, redacting of names so as not to incriminate anyone or, get sued for it. I will see you in the next video. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.